Hello there, and welcome to a new build guide for Age of Wonders 4. And today I got you a lightning build in my pocket. One for the Mystic culture, and yeah, I really must say this feels kind of unfair to play. Because it's very synergistic in itself, it's nigh irresistible, and the only downside that I found so far is that your front line is a little bit easy to push over. But beyond that, you're dealing horrendous amounts of damage. You have pretty much everything you could wish for, and let's get down into the details. When it comes down to the racial traits, I went here. Well, Inner Lightning I took for the sake of the meme. I think you could go with a lot of other 2-point traits here. Pack Hunter, Overwhelming Formation, or, well, so many other things could be used here. I chose this one to showcase that you have here an optional slot, and I found it very fitting and fun. Arcane Focus, because it's a very Battle Mage heavy build and hardy to make our units die less quickly. Because we can get a lot of mileage out of our tier 1 roster, I found that a very useful one. Culture-wise, I went into the Potential school. Potential allows you to overcharge spells, which is amazing for lightning. It also allows us to inflict dissonance. Whenever a overcharged spell is cast, dissonance pops and deals damage to enemies that have dissonance. We inflict dissonance with our basic attacks, so this is really powerful in my experiences. We also have Arcane Inspirations, which allows us to disable spells for a while and get economy bonuses. I'll talk about that in the strategy pod. You could also go for the Starblade school. That would work very well here too. I wanted to go for Potential because it has way more nuke capabilities that I love here. Therefore, I went for Gifted Casters to have cheap spells, and Powerful Evokers to have lots of powerful spells. This combination also gives you, with a high likelihood, a supporter at the beginning of the game, which is pretty good. Feel free to interchange anything you want, because none of these are needed affinity-wise for this build, so you have some freedom on that if you want to change your strategies. The tomes that I went for, well, when you're going for a lightning build, I think you can't skip past Evocation. It is the baseline lightning tome, and lightning focus gives our battle mages the ability to electrify, whereas lightning blades gives our melee troops the chance to utilize a 20% damage extra when they're hitting electrified units. It's a pretty nifty synergy between these two, and our build is not only revolving around battle mages, but a lot around frontline too, so yeah, I feel like this is a really good one. Fulmination as a wonderful 1 hex radius nuke. It does so much heavy lifting as an overcharged spell, and Lightning Torrent is one hell of a map nuke. The thing about this is not only that it deals damage, it also strips lightning resistance off of the enemy, which is pretty OP. Do that and your army has a distinct advantage, because everybody on your roster is full of lightning damage, so this is really a nasty move, and I can wholeheartedly recommend. Evokers are just your better tier 2 battle mages. They are good baseline material, and there's nothing wrong about them. Also, they make your build a lot more bursty, as you can hit up to 3 enemies with that electrifying arc. Lesser Storm Spirits are amazingly useful for this build, because you have Shock Troopers that evolve into really good Shock Troopers, and they are available at any point of the game, and well, I personally love to have flying troops that are hard to hit with ranged attacks and can just smack people in the backline. In the worst case scenario, you can use them as hand grenade type troops that disable supporters, battle mages, archers, you name it, or you foster them into the big tier 3 units and you get a big payout too. It's really cool. And last but not least, channeling towers, because we love conduits and mana. We eat that stuff. Tier 1, the other side, alchemy. This one we require for the affinities. It is also very powerful for this build in various degrees, but it was also sort of something that I picked mostly for the affinity. If you would go for a point of materium affinity in your build, you could change this one for faith, for example. I find faith would be an excellent an add-on for this build too. Anyways, alchemy is not bad at all. Quite the opposite. I really like this one. We are rocking this one for the alchemist slabs, which are amazing knowledge producers, which we can't just build up for free. We don't need to research anything. Research-wise, we also gain the material refinery, so there's a lot of economy going on in this tome. Mysterious Tonic is wonderful for your supporters. It's a negative status effect remover and a buff skill that comes for free. Really, really love that one. And we get to disperse the miasma stuff, which means that we have a very, very easy time to put bleeding and electrification on the enemy, which is really excellent. It also weakens them. The afflictors are very interesting. We don't get the most out of them until we hit the tier 3 tomes, but these guys inflict physical and toxic damage. In combination with afflicting miasma, which they can produce by themselves, this means we can now we have access to bleeding, electrification, and poison. So that's a pretty nasty mix. And once you have the tier 3 unit enchantments rocking, these guys are really powerful and can be used quite decently in this whole setup. Fumigation, well, what can I say? It's a really underwhelming siege project, and I would recommend to skip on the spell entirely. Yeah, what's left to say? Anti-magic tincture. This is wonderful. Research that, and for a meager price of 8 mana and 15 combat points, you can 1 hex radius cleanse negative status effects, which is really, really handy when that big fat AoE freeze or stun hits your army. Really love that. Tier 2 comes, and we are picking up Artificing. Artificing does a lot for this build. Artisan Armaments gives your frontliners a lot more critical hit chance, which is really all over the board a nice damage per turn increase. It is what it is. Same goes for Siege Magic. Siege Magic does not only crank up the damage of your battle mages and supporters a little bit, it also gives Siege Breaker to a majority of your army, which is really nice, because sieging cities becomes darned easy with this build, because you have a lot of supporters and battle mages, and this gives them so much heavy lifting. Also, they can demolish stuff. Really, really cool. And last but not least, we gain Iron Golems. With these, we have a real badass tier 3 unit available that gives us enough resilience to get pretty much everything done we require for this build. They are really cool, and bolt repeaters and artisan fortifications are really good for defending your own cities and bolstering down the enemy defenses. Smacking down the enemy defenses. Jeez. Talking. Anyways, they do a lot of fortification damage and give you nice extra troops, which is really cool. So don't sleep on these. And last but not least, Golem Mines for some extra goodies there. Next up, Doom Herald. We have a lot of cultural units. We really do. Therefore, Joy Siphoners makes a lot of action happening. From this point on, your mages do also debuff the enemy's morale heavily, which is really nice because they also gain morale, which means your mages also will crit a lot more. And yeah, it's a vicious cycle that I really, really love. Also, Cruel Weaponry gives then your frontliners that extra boost by 30%. That's really a lot. And Banshees. So, well, they are summonable tier 3 battle mages if one of your recruited battle mages should die, but in all honesty, you could skip on these because we have ample supply of battle mages on our own. This is not really necessary, but the build makes good utility out of these, and you can use them if you want to. We also have Cause to Spare for a morale shaving in the beginning, and Prelude of Doom to put the enemy's morale on a debuff from the get-go. Doom Depth Trench. So yeah, we are really strong in the mana and knowledge game, and we are amplifying that with this one, and this build wants to be evil, because you get the most payoff out of this if you are evil. Okay, we are hitting tier 3. What the hell? So, amplification. That's where we're heading to. This is the tier 3 tome that gives us so much power, and I think this is the point where you can seriously start taking over the game. Frenzying Focus gives your battle mages a up to 50% more power if the combat goes longer. Massive power up. Amplified Arrows enables all the ranged and skirmish troops in your army. So much versatility. Your afflictors are from this point on super useful. They inflict bleeding, electrification, and poison at the same time. It's amazing. And AoE, mind you. Also, the Sundered Resistance thing is really, really nice. It's only 30% chance though, so it's a little bit sad. But I have some plan for that too later in the strategy pod. Astral Blood gives all of your troops then a critical hit chance increase, and together with Joy Siphoners, you do crit a lot. It's just what it is. Amplified Minds allows you to trade a little bit of stability for knowledge income. I really do like that. And Amplification Pylon and Chain Lightning puts your nuke game to a new level. Because, you already deal a ton of damage on that end. Because you can so easily destroy the enemy's resistances. This makes things even worse. Resonance Fields is cool as it gives you world map and combat casting points. Nothing bad about that. Also, nice synergy with all the other province improvements that we already have. Okay, so tier 3, the other side is Transmutation. This is really, really amazing for this build. First up, we gain Steel Skin, which does so much for us. I mean, yeah, we're losing a little bit of lightning resistance, but I really don't mind, because we are even ironing out that later. But we also gain access to the tier 4 Battle Mage Transmuter. These guys can then sunder down the enemy's defenses and increase ours, and petrify enemies in a 1 hex radius. That is just amazing. You have so much utility with this alone on your hand. You also gain Melt Armor, so you can decrease the enemy's physical resistances, and Adaptive Armor comes in as a frontline enhancer to make your frontliners die even slower on that end. With Transmute Resources, you can boost up the production of one of your cities if you don't need the mana, but in all honesty, I wouldn't recommend for this build too much because you're so mana hungry. I don't think that you will ever have the freedom to use this. Transmutation Circle is excellent in combination with Alchemy. You have here the ability to produce whatever you want, and you get another boost up via the building that you have there that gives you more for magical materials. With tier 4, we went over to Stormborn because, lightning builds can utilize this so well. With Stormborn, you want that Lightning Storm combat enchantment. All units become wet for 3 turns. This is a heavy, heavy reduction of lightning resistance. So you can increase your army's damage alone with that spell by an obscene amount. Mind you, that spell from tier 1 tome, the Lightning Torrent, and the other one here, they stack together. So yeah, you not only deal a lot of damage, you create vulnerabilities, which is insane in my humble opinion. If you want to go for it, Naga Transformation allows you to make your units fast, amphibious, which is really cool, and gaining slip away. Naga Transformation looks easily very, very weak, but being fast is insanely powerful because it increases your combat movement as well. This is really borderline OP. It's easy to overlook that. And slip away, I mean, everybody in your cultural roster gets basically a second life if they get down. This is also very insane. And here, you gain back the lightning resistance that you lost on the steel skin. So, you're steel-skinned Nagas. How cool is that? So, the downside is that you can't take the other tier 4's major racial transformation. You also gain a couple of extra goodies if you are on the coastal provinces. Stormbringers give you tier 4 skirmishes, which hit like a truck. Seriously, they do. And they also have a nice ranged attack, which is AoE. You can and should use these because your build can utilize their melee damage so much. And the other tier 4 to pick up would be then Astral Convergence, or Astral Mirror if you like it more. Astral Convergence, though, I really love Astral Attunement as a, you can't be Naga then, but you would gain a AoE positive effect gain whenever you cast combat spells. It's up to you, I think. Objectively speaking, Naga is more powerful. Astral Convergence also gives you more goodies for combat casting, which your build already excels at. It also gives you a combat summon for free, which is really, really good. So that's where our build is at. And you're going to go roster-wise here. Arcane Guards, well, they are interesting insofar as they have the ability to lower the enemy's magical resistance when they strike them. So they have a part in your build, but they die too fast, so don't rely too much on them. Same goes for Arcanists. Good baseline unit, but they are really, really throwaway units, as they are basically just a battle mage frame waiting for boosts. Evokers, on the other hand, are your bread and butter battle mages. They have a nice AoE, they have a nice baseline attack, and they do everything your Arcanists do, just better. You also gain Soothers. You should really, really rely a lot on these, because they have a nice healing, they have this negative status, dispel thing, and also a really nice attack. I mean, seriously, look at that damage. They also have the spell channeling ability, making your spells even cheaper, so you can do a lot of goodness with these. And then there's the spell shields. These guys are your shields until you have iron golems, or you can easily just skip on the iron golems and use these. You don't need too much of a front line because your nuke's so heavy, but if you do, spell shields come in handy later down the road. If you need heavy tanking, use iron golems instead. Their really, really major takeaway is the flash freeze ability, which allows you to point blank AoE stun, which is really cool because we have a lot of effective abilities to lower the enemy's status resistance. More about that in a hot minute. So these guys are really, really useful. And tier 3 wise, yeah, Spellweavers. These are practically the best that we can have here. They have a really nice attack, and they allow you to cast even more spells. This is just so insane. If you ever run out of mana, you can't use that obviously, but as long as you have, it's really cool. And they add combat casting points each turn, so you don't run out of combat casting points so quickly. With the Imperium skills later, you won't ever. But more about that again. I'm getting ahead of myself today a lot. And yeah, last but not least, the Iron Golems, and yeah, they have a natural weakness against shock. So yeah, that's the only thing that sucks a little bit about them. Anyways, we also gain here, like I said initially, these storm spirits. Pop them in wherever you have some freedom to put them down, mana-wise, I mean. Okay, heroes. I went here obviously for Wizard King because Overchannel is just too, or nowadays it's Channeling Ritual, it's just too tasty to pass on by. More combat spells, please. Yes. I went here class-wise for Mage. I can see a Ritualist work really, really gosh darn well here too. The Mage has the advantage that you get even more nukes because you are just so good at blasting down people. It's lovely. You can go for a Ritualist if you want more healing and such. It's up to you. Signature skills I wholeheartedly recommend for this build: Status Resistance Ignorance, Astral Dedication. This is so powerful for this build because we have a lot of things like, mind you, alone the stun from more spell shields, or the tier 3 amplification tomes sunder resistance on archers. All of these things are more likely to proc with this online. So this is really, really what I can so much recommend for this build. It does change quite a lot because you can abuse the enemy's weaknesses even more. Here's the Ritualist tree. You can go either for Wild Growth, AoE healing, or single target healing. You also have the ability to summon units. It's really up to you how you want to rock it. And last but not least, Mortal Champions are also valuable for this build because of their experienced leader trait. these are the people that you put the storm spirits in, so they level up passively, and you can also give them logistics training, so you'll pay less upkeep. This is really cool. I love defenders as well for this build because we get really late access to strong shields, and we never get past tier 3. So an honorable mention to the defender heroes, because I think they really close a gap that exists for this build. Alright, so Imperium skill-wise, we're in for a treat here. We're mostly dwelling in these two arms, but since our Imperium also has a lot of Materium affinity, we can utilize the best of these worlds too. Materium comes in quite late, but it comes with city structure cost reduction, arcane artisans, oh the nerf. But there's a lot of good economy stuff in there, which the Mystic really like. Shadow gives you a lot of knowledge gameplay. One of the things that I want to point here towards to is death magic. You get that quite late, but it is such powerful late game skill. Please pick that up as quick as you can, because it just gives you the ability to basically cast all day as long as your mana doesn't go out. And when it comes down to mana here, Shadow Binding is really cool to reduce your unit upkeep, and Philosopher Soldiers for knowledge gaining via leveling up troops, very powerful. And we also can use the Rite of Astral Abundance if you ever need a quick infusion of mana. Also pick up the skills that make research less costly and such, and you're in for a very quick build. Roster-wise, I would really dare say you require a couple of supporters more than usual, because you just take a lot of damage. You have shock troopers, skirmishes later, you have rather low-tier shields, low-tier spears. You get the idea. People are just taking a lot of damage. Therefore, just pick up 4 soothers, eventually maybe 5, or if you can get a different supporter from outside sources, it helps a lot to work, like I said, ritualist heroes. Then I would say 2 or 3 spears tops, depending on how many frontline heroes you have, and the rest is just packered up with battle mages. Or you should also, 1 or 2 spears and 1 shock, 1 spear, 2 shock. Really, don't stress yourself out too much on the front line, because your game plan is to just nuke down what you can, and whatever gets too close to your archers gets pelted down by shock troopers, spears, and receives the next backline nuke first. You will heal up what survives and repeat the whole game in the process. The advantage of that is that this build doesn't need a big formation game. You're deadly even if your troops are scattered. This is pretty cool. Other builds that have this formation trait stuff going on, they can't dwell on that so well as we can. Now, I also want to talk quickly about dissonance. Dissonance is something that you stack up via your attacks, and then you cast a spell, and then it pops. You should really, and this is something where I must say the most skill goes into, learn playing around that, because you can spread a couple of attacks, and then you bust out a fulmination or a cosmic ablation, and then all of these things explode. This is so good. This is so fun. You can use that for any overcharge spell, and that's pretty cool. Speaking about cultural extras, here you see the arcane inspiration mechanic. Since I used fulmination 3 times, I could now block the spell for 10 turns, and in return give all my cities 15 food more for 10 turns. This is unique for every spell, and when you activate it, the bonus next time will be a different one. So if I activate this next time, I wouldn't get food income, but something else. In a nutshell, this means you want to spam those spells and block them from time to time when you get an attractive bonus there. Because, for example, here, this is pretty nifty. This is 30 to 40 knowledge per turn for 10 turns. This is amazing. This is also applying to map spells and repeatable spells. So you really should check on out what is going on there and spam it and use it. There's also arcane studies. Research that, because it will allow you to get these inspirations without spamming these spells. This is extremely mana efficient. This is mostly about mana efficiency. because you don't need to spam the spells, and you can save your mana for the things that you really want to spend your mana on. Really good stuff. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this build. I really don't have that much more to say, except for the last thing. Spam those special province improvements and those special buildings that you got. Material refineries and Spell Arcanist Library is also amazing, which is unique for our culture. The Doom Depth Trench. These power up your mana and knowledge game massively. They have a very, very high priority on your cities. This is something I really, really gotta stress on out. And yeah, enjoy. This is a highly unfair build because I personally think it is not okay that you are able with lightning damage to deal tons of damage and so easily destroy the enemy's resistance, especially the interaction between wetness and the map spell there results in a -6 on lightning -7 on lightning resistance. This is stupid. And I love it. I hope you guys do so too. So, feel free to leave me your comments down below. Whatever you want to see next build-wise, let me know. I really love your recommendations and wishes. Leave a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and in the description box you'll find plenty of links. Thanks for watching. Feel free to support Icon Gaming financially. I really, really appreciate your guys' support. And thanks for watching this video. Thanks for supporting the channel. All of you who do. I really appreciate you folks. Have a good time, and see you all on the next one.